Okay, today I am going over the 9 Enneagram types. I am doing this during the day so you can see the chart better. That also means there will be some traffic sounds, and I hope they don't bother you. So, to get started, I'll just number these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 1 is the reformer. Then we have 2, the helper. I picked out these colors too based on the types, like which one I thought suited it. 3 is the achiever. Of course, through or from my limited number of marker colors. Then we have 4, the individualist. 5, the investigator. 6, the loyalist. 7, the enthusiast. 8, the challenger. 9, the peacemaker. So, first we have the reformer, who is rational and idealistic. So when they grow, they become more like 7s. So they lose their critical selves and become more spontaneous and joyful. When they are stressed, they become more like 4s. So their methodical sides become moody and irrational. Their fear is basically being defective, like not being good enough. And their desire is to have integrity. Should be these boxes bigger. Their motivations are to be right, to improve everything, also to be consistent with their ideals, to be beyond criticism so no one can fault them. That was annoying me, so I fixed it with a little piece of paper. So basically, a reformer, when they are healthy, they have strong personal convictions, a really firm sense of right and wrong, moral values, and they want to be rational and reasonable and moderate and just mature. In the middle, like neither healthy nor unhealthy, they're very afraid of making mistakes because they're holding on so strongly to their ideals. And so they're kind of rigid, and often they're workaholics. Then when they're unhealthy, they can be really dogmatic, self-righteous, intolerant, inflexible, and they deal in absolutes, like they know what's right and they won't listen to anyone else. Alright, then we have the helper, who is caring and social. When they are growing, they become more like fours. So normally they can be pretty prideful. They become more self-nurturing and emotionally aware, like a 4. When they're stressed, they become more like an 8. So the needy side of them becomes more aggressive and dominating. Their fear is being unworthy of love. Unworthy of love. And their desire is to feel loved. Their motivations are to express feelings for others, to be needed, to be appreciated, to have people respond to them, and to have other people like validate them. So when helpers, or the 2, is healthy, they're really empathetic and compassionate, and they feel a lot for others. They're caring, they're forgiving, they're sincere. In the middle, neither healthy nor unhealthy, they can become a little needy or like overly intrusive, don't really keep boundaries, so they'll hover or meddle in things, like a helicopter parent or a helicopter friend, helicopter partner, because they want other people to need them. So they become kind of possessive. Then when they are unhealthy, they can be manipulative and self-serving, and they try to guilt trip other people by telling telling other people they owe them, or implying that. They can undermine people too. So then we have the achiever, who is ambitious and pragmatic. Ambitious and pragmatic. No way is that gonna fit. So when they're growing, they become more like a 6. Their deceitful side becomes more cooperative. When they're stressed, they become more like a 9. So their ambitious, driven side becomes more disengaged. They become apathetic. Their fear is being worthless. Their desire is to feel valuable. And their motivations, they want to be affirmed, they want to be admired, to impress others, and they want to distinguish themselves from others and have attention, basically. When 3s are healthy, they are self-assured and energetic. They have a lot of self-esteem. They believe in themselves. Their desire is to be valuable, and they believe that they are valuable. really charming, really gracious. When they're neither healthy nor unhealthy, they become image conscious, and they're really concerned with what other people think about them. And they start to make decisions based on other people's expectations of them. And when they're unhealthy, they are really scared of being humiliated and failing. So they kind of become opportunistic, and they become jealous of the success of others, and adopt this kind of do whatever it takes mentality to achieve their goals, but it ends up hurting other people and themselves. Alright, then we have the individualist 4, who is sensitive and creative. I really should have made these wider, but I did not. So growth, when an individualist is growing, they become more like a 1. So the emotionally turbulent side of an individualist becomes objective and principled. When they're stressed, they become more like a 2. So the aloof side of an individualist becomes over-involved and clinging. Their fear is no identity or no personal significance, and their desire is to find themselves. Their motivations to express themselves, and to create in general, and to create beauty, surround themselves with beautiful things, and to take care of their emotional needs before anything else. So a healthy individualist is self-aware, introspective. They're really aware of their feelings and their inner impulses. They're sensitive to themselves and to others. And they can take all their experiences and transform them into something creative. Either healthy or unhealthy, 4s become, they're artistic and they have a romantic view on life, but they live a little too much in their heads in fantasy and imagination, and they care about their feelings still, so they internalize everything. And an unhealthy 4 becomes really angry at themselves. Often when their dreams aren't realized, they become depressed and they alienate themselves from others, but also from themselves. Like they kind of become emotionally paralyzed. Then we have the investigator, who is perceptive and cerebral. You guys know what that means, cerebral. So growth, they become more like 8s. So they can be kind of selfish, but when they grow, they become like an 8, in that they become more self-confident and decisive. When they're stressed, they become more like a 7. So they can be detached, and they become more like a 7 through stress and become hyperactive and scattered. So their fear is of being helpless or useless, and their desire is to be competent. Their motivations are to possess knowledge, and to figure things out. They want to have control over things by finding solutions. So a healthy 5 observes everything with really perceptive lenses and a lot of insight. They're mentally alert, and They love knowledge, love gathering knowledge, love observing. And because they're so observant, they can predict things and see ahead and be really concentrated. A 5 that's neither healthy nor unhealthy becomes increasingly detached because they live in their heads and play with complicated ideas in their heads over and over in kind of a obsessive way. So they become more in their heads than like in reality. And yeah, their mind is like a disembodied mind. And then an unhealthy 5 becomes reclusive and isolated from reality, kind of eccentric, kind of nihilistic. And they reject others because they're so stuck in their heads. Then we have the 6, the loyalist, who is engaging and responsible. Responsible. If you remake this chart, obviously I highly recommend making these boxes wider. So when a 6 is growing, they become more like a 9. So their pessimistic side becomes more relaxed and optimistic. When they're stressed, they become more like a 3. So their dutiful side becomes more competitive and arrogant. Their fear is being without support. And their desire is to have security. Their motivations, to feel supported, to have security, to have reassurance. I broke that in the wrong place. And yeah, to feel supported. So a healthy 6 is able to inspire strong emotions in others. They're really social and lovable and affectionate. And trust is really important to them. They bond with others. They form really beautiful relationships with other people, romantic and otherwise, also platonic. 6 that's neither healthy nor unhealthy kind of resists having demands made on them, and they react passive-aggressively to avoid demands. They become evasive, indecisive, cautious, and they procrastinate by giving contradictory mixed signals because they're confused themselves. Like inside they are also confused. And an unhealthy 6 fears that they have totally ruined any sense of security, so they kind of become panicked, volatile, and feel inferior and feel defenseless. So they seek out a stronger authority or like a higher belief to solve their problems for them. And they also berate others when they're unhealthy. So then we have the enthusiast, who is busy and fun-loving. Growth goes towards 5, so their kind of gluttonous side, when it goes towards 5, becomes more curious and focused. When they're stressed, they go towards 1, so they can be kind of scattered, and towards 1 they become perfectionistic and critical. Their fear is of being deprived, and their desire is to be satisfied. Their motivations are to maintain their freedom and happiness. and to have worthwhile experiences. This type suffers a lot from FOMO. They don't want to miss out on anything. They want to be excited, they want to be busy, and they want to avoid pain, like most people, I think, probably. A healthy 7 is really excitable, really enthusiastic, enjoying many experiences. A healthy 7 is the most extroverted type, so they love stimuli and find everything really exciting, and they're really cheerful. A 7 who's neither healthy nor unhealthy becomes hyperactive, and they can't decide or discern what they need and don't need, and they're unable to say no to other people and to themselves. So they just throw themselves into constant activity to keep themselves preoccupied. They become really uninhibited. They have no filter, lots of storytelling, lots of flamboyant exaggerations in movement and speaking. And because they're scared of being bored, they do everything, too many things, and they have a lot of ideas but little follow through. And then an unhealthy 7 becomes really impulsive and don't know when to stop. Lots of excess can really take its toll, so they can become offensive and addicted and other things. Then we have 8, the challenger, who is confident and decisive. When they're growing, they go towards 2. So their controlling side becomes more open-hearted and caring, like a 2. When they're stressed, they become more like a 5. So their confident side becomes more secretive and fearful. Their fear is being controlled by others. And their desire is to protect themselves. Their motivations are to be self-reliant, and to stay in control. So a healthy 8 is self-assertive, confident, strong. They stand up for what they want, what they need, and they're resourceful, and they have a can-do attitude. An 8 who is neither healthy nor unhealthy begins to dominate their environment and others, so they want to feel like others support them. So they are kind of like, they have some swagger, they boast a lot, they can be kind of forceful and want to be the boss who decides what goes, like my way or the highway. Really proud and egocentric, and don't really see others as equals. And then an unhealthy 8 defies any attempt for anyone else to control them. Totally ruthless and really strong-handed. Finally, we have the 9, the peacemaker, easygoing and supportive. Easygoing and supportive. So when they're growing, they go towards 3. Their self-neglecting side becomes more self-developing and energetic. When they're stressed, they go towards 6. So their complacent side becomes more anxious and worried. Their fear is of loss and separation. Their desire is inner stability, or to have peace of mind. And their motivations are to create harmony in their lives. To create harmony. And to avoid conflict. They want to keep things the way they are and resist or avoid whatever would upset the status quo. So a healthy 9 is really tolerant, accepting, emotionally stable, totally serene, and they're just genuinely nice people. A 9 that's neither healthy nor unhealthy is active but disengaged, unreflective, inattentive. They don't want to be affected, so they become unresponsive and complacent, and they walk away from problems, kind of sweep things under the rug. An unhealthy 9 can be highly repressed and really incapable of facing problems, so they can become obstinate and they can dissociate themselves from conflict and become neglectful to themselves. So those are all 9 types. Just a quick overview on each one so you can get an idea of the profile for each type. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. I hope you found this video useful or relaxing, and I will see you very soon.